Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to some and welcome to the others to our workshop meeting here at Delray Beach on this April 29th, 2025. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Margaret.
Here.
Vice Mayor Long.
Here.
Commissioner Casal.
Here.
Deputy Vice Mayor Burns.
Here.
Mayor Carney.
Here.
We have a quorum.
I'm going to start this off because there was some discussion about why we're having this meeting and everything. I think there is a genuine, and I've expressed this personally both to the city manager and Mr. Orris and others who would listen to me, that I think the whole process here of subculture is not the way it was supposed to go. I sat in this meeting when it was when the first in-lieu parking places were given. And it was based on an application that said somebody's activity is going to be this. And then we sat here back in January, was the 5th or the 3rd, I forgot the date we were there in January, where we said we want to bring this back to the commission. We want to discuss this.
7th.
And all of a sudden, 7th, whatever the date was, thank you. And all of a sudden, without, and we talked, we said, look, if they need a conditional use, let's bring it back and discuss it. And somehow the city was able to find that they didn't need a conditional use. And instead of coming to the commission, which we had made clear expressions that we wanted to talk about this, you decided to go ahead anyway and expand saying it's not a conditional use, they're going to be allowed to do it anyway, so bang, bang, you go ahead and you authorize increase activities in the place and say so therefore they didn't have to come back. That is really subverting in my view, and I'm using that word truthfully, what I thought was at least the will of the consensus of the commission. There are 3 of us up here that asked for that meeting to come back. And it has nothing to do with whether I like subculture or I don't like subculture. What I don't like here is the process. Because we were given instructions and we just didn't, and we were totally ignored, and you went ahead and authorized a new, essentially occupational use, expanding the use over what it was. Because I will tell you what I think. When I sat there through the first time in Subculture, and I happened to be here for something else, when they got their permit, I listened to everything, and I had gone to their other location when it was over across from Old School Square. I like it. They were saying, well, we're really just a stop and go kind of a place. 15 minutes, people are in and around.
Correct.
Okay, and so we give in lieu parking because we think that it's going to work. We're not going to need it. If I had known it was going to become essentially equivalent to an entertainment venue, and I don't care what you say, there was people there on Saturday. I've watched this. If you had told me it was going to be essentially equivalent to an entertainment venue, I might have wanted additional restrictions to go with those in lieu parking places, and which we don't have. We don't have, to this date, we don't have a recorded off-site parking agreement, which I would have insisted on prior to their first issuance of a permit, if that were going to be their activities. And quite frankly, this whole concept, this is a classic little coffee house. Excuse me, I've been to the old classic, I'm 71, so I actually have been to those coffee houses. So, they do a good product there, but this process is not right, and I do not believe, and I believe that if you were going to expand their activities, which you did, and authorize additional activities, which you did, they should have come back to front of this commission and talk about what kind of in-lieu parking we wanted at that point to support those additional activities, and you didn't do that. You went around us, and I am really not happy. So I'm happy to hear what you have to say, because I think I've said just about everything I'm going to say on this, because if you can't say that it wasn't very clear to come back to the commission, then I invite you all to go back and look at that meeting again. And using the technical thing, well, they didn't need a conditional use, come on. The spirit of what we said was pretty darn clear. I'm done. Mr. Moore, did you want to?
I'll simply add that the interest today is to focus on the process to every extent that we possibly can. Although a highlight pertains to a particular business in the community, our interest is to be in alignment with respect to the process as it relates to zoning certificates of use, clarification regarding conditional use, and frankly, code enforcement standing. And we've done some work in recent times to emphasize the importance of being consistent in that regard. And part of the information forwarded to City Commission in preparation for this meeting, we also highlight Chapter 162 of Florida Statutes, Section 121, as it pertains to code enforcement practices and protocols. Our interest is to have the tightest process we possibly can. And as we continue this afternoon's exercise, I will offer some specific guidance and, quite frankly, direction in terms of elected officials' interactions with respect to any issues, concerns that might exist in this regard. Nevertheless, although the genesis of why we are where we are at this time pertains to a particular business interest, and Mr. Mayor, you talked a little bit about that as it relates to Subculture Coffee. The interest is to offer clarity in terms of what is administrative, what is a policy position, and how do we strike a balance moving forward to get to the best place possible. So
I will just say to that, Mr. Moore, that while you technically can say it was administrative, we gave direction.
Mr. Mayor, we'll address that.
And that is, the administrative responsibility was to bring it back.
Mr. Mayor, we'll be happy to address that. So thank you. So in essence,
How do you address it? You didn't bring it back.
Yes, sir. So again, we have representatives from the Department of Neighborhood and Community Services, leadership from Development Services.
Chairman, may I make a brief comment before we go to city staff, just to chime in?
Go ahead.
I'll keep it brief. We have code enforcement issues with businesses all over the city, past and present. It is odd to me that this has become a function of the commission to be involved with this when it's typically an administrative function. Is that funny?
Yeah, it is.
Is it really funny? Okay.
Circumstances.
Okay.
It's remarkably amusing.
So it does seem odd to me that we are bringing this up in this manner. It's such an odd precedent.
I'm not bringing up the code. Look at whether they were allowed to do what they did with code or not, whether the citations or not. I mean, that's all. That's going to be hashed out by whoever hashes that out. I'm involved here because we asked for it to come back in front of the commission, and they did not, and they expanded their activities, notwithstanding our discussion up here that we wanted to discuss the expansion of those activities. It has nothing to do with what. I'm not even thinking of the code violations, although I certainly think that the pending code violation probably should have been paid before they found the technical loophole to allow them around it and then say, see, we're allowed to do it, therefore that goes away. That's just me. But
I feel like the precedent of us talking about our opinions about how this process is going is a dangerous path to go on. It seems borderline defamatory towards our businesses if we're going to drag up anyone in our city who is going through code enforcement issues and then pontificate about how we feel about said issues in a public forum. I don't want to create a precedent where we're making it into a spectacle anytime there's issues that should be dealt with administratively.
Which is why you didn't hear me mention the business at all. I mentioned the process and the people that approved it.
And my interest is to emphasize the process. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to have us proceed so that we can achieve the necessary clarity, enabling a path forward accordingly. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
If I may, Jeff Forrest, Assistant City Manager. Mayor, I'm going to say something I know you're not going to be happy with it.
Sure.
But if I may.
I get that many times a day.
So in reviewing that meeting, staff very much thought that was about a conditional use of what's going on the outside. And Mr. Mayo come forward and say he's not doing anything outside.
I'd like to object to that statement, if I may.
It
was very clear when the city attorney said, and I quote, "It doesn't matter if it's inside or outside at this point." And I do support Mr.
For the
Mayo
record,
as
everyone
well.
else has waited their turn to speak.
No, but that statement is inaccurate.
Okay, but
I
you-
apologize.
we'll
It's
give-
totally
So you're
and
calling our
completely-
Assistant City Manager a
I
liar?
am saying the
But-
statement
but-
is
hey.
inaccurate. There's a film.
You're both out of order. Continue.
Completely inaccurate.
So we moved ahead with things, and what I can tell you is I don't think that this amended ZCU expands the use as much as everybody thinks it does. It still states that the uses.
Again, I know I only went to a Jesuit college, and so, but I'm just reading here, the difference in activities, and you're honestly, you're going to say there and say this wasn't an expansion of activities? Are you going to say that?
I'm going to say that what he asked for is on the first page. What he has approved for is on the second page. And the second page says that he has approved as a restaurant. It is a proposed restaurant for a total of 41 seats. There's an alcohol license issued by the state. Business shall meet restaurant bona fide definition as defined in the LDR's Appendix A during all hours of operation, and no outdoor entertainment is proposed. Fire and building review the life safety plan, which does not have a stage on it.
There's a stage there. There's a stage there.
I'm saying that
Certainly
when they
was Saturday
came,
night.
I don't disagree with you, which is a code violation of the approved ZCU. Any outdoor entertainment requires conditional use because, as you recall, we were having outside art bazaars and things. And any operation past midnight requires a conditional use. The seating for the floor plan will remain as proposed during all hours of operation. That is their approval. Their approval is not expanded. In fact, we were trying to get them back in the building at the time.
Could I ask a question? Does that approval exceed the amount of seating allowed under the liquor license or the operating permit? Believe we received something
And while
that
you're thinking
said-
about that, I want to ask you whether or not you think that this language is consistent with we're a 15-minute pick up and go place. Coffee shop with food, art, music, community, cultural gathering place with weekly entertainment including chess, live art, painting, poetry, open mic, karaoke, latte art, coffee cupping, and guest training and classes. Classes, by the way, is not really a 15 pick up and go place. So
They're not approved for that. They're approved to serve food to customers. That's it. There's not anything in here that says that you can have a concert on a stage.
Could I,
Mayor,
Mayor?
can I make a point of order?
I'm sorry, what?
Just one point.
Yes, please.
So the first page of that ZCU that you're looking at,
Yeah.
Part 1 and Part 2 and Part 3, those are completed by the applicant. So when he comes back to update the ZCU, that's what he's writing down he would like to do.
Right.
When you look at the parts 4 and essentially just Part 4, that's where staff indicates to the applicant what it is they're permitted to do. And what that says is you are only a restaurant, and you are, and if you want to do anything outdoor, because at that point, that's when he had the art bazaar and was instructed to amend his ZCU if he wished to have events outside. They took that portion off. And so, as we sit here today, there is a violation of the ZCU because as part of the ZCU, he's required to submit a life safety plan, which is essentially like a site plan. That's what you would know it better as. But that has to be a clear depiction of what, if you went inside the restaurant, it would look like. And it's missing a stage. So that's noticeably absent from there. So right now, that is a violation. I'm sure Mr. Orris can speak to why he hasn't been cited for that, but that is a violation of the ZCU. So
And-
this document is going to have to be amended once again because it's not sufficient to truly depict exactly how that restaurant establishment looks from the inside and that's where the occupancy load would come in. They have to delineate the tables and chairs so that we can give them an accurate number for occupancy. If they exceed their occupancy, as you know, that could also trigger, if they have special events that are triggering the occupancy. The conditional use is typically for the outside, right? If you have multiple events, that could trigger a conditional use. If you're gonna have a once in a while, even if it's an indoor event, it's a special event. That should, and as I indicated back in January, those things should come before the city commission based on everything that you've been advised about this establishment.
And further, the initial application. for
Again,
life-
I'm not getting into whether they're violating or anything. I'm getting into the process. Why was all that allowed without coming back here first?
But it wasn't allowed. It's not allowed today. It's only approved for a restaurant. The initial application included a life safety plan that had the stage, and the approved, and then an updated one was submitted to staff that removed the stage.
Right.
That tells staff, you're coming into compliance with what a restaurant is. You're no longer going to do these events. You've taken it off. And then we tell you, you're a restaurant, and you have to adhere to the definition of restaurant, and you're not allowed to rearrange your furniture. That's the approval. The approval is not for concerts.
Mayor, if I
Well, there was a
may.
lot of cars there for a sustained period of time when I went by there over the weekend.
That's a violation of the ZCA.
And they were, I didn't see any people walking over from the putting place. And I watched it for a good, me, I take my little pictures. Anyway, go. I'm sorry, Mr. Orris. I don't mean to
Mr.
keep
Mayor, we
interrupting
will follow up that. I reached out to the owner of Subculture, and I asked him if he had a written agreement, and he wrote back it was a verbal, not a written, and we're going to have to follow up on that and make sure that we have a written agreement.
Let me tell you about that. Let me tell you what the rule is. When you make as a part of your in lieu, because that parking agreement was discussed when the time he made his application, got his approval. It is implied that that is a condition of approval without you having to add it as a condition, because when you say, don't worry, I'm going to be doing an off-site parking agreement, and you give them the in lieu spots, that off-site parking agreement is supposed to be in place. You don't have to put as a special condition, do an off-site parking agreement. It's part of the record, and part of the record of how you got your approval. That's always the way it's been done. Now, well, I can only say it's always the way it used to be done.
And I'm not going to disagree with it. That's something that we should have. I have no defense other than to tell you we will follow up on that.
Mayor, if I may.
Ms. Casal?
Thank you. The fundamental problem, the in lieu was approved prior to some of us serving here. And realistically, even if it's a grab and go, the in lieu doesn't work at that location. And that's really why we have a problem. Mr. Richwagon came in and spoke in favor of this establishment when they were looking for the in lieu. The neighbors are frustrated. We're frustrated because we're getting complaints. I go to the coffee shop. They have the best pastries probably in this city. I want them to be, no, I'll be honest.
My wife goes all the
I
time.
want them to be successful, but not when they are negatively impacting everybody around them. Excuse me, that's not permitted. But we have to figure out, the solution would have been for it to come back in front of us so that we could have a way of seeing a clear path forward. And I'm frustrated like the mayor because it didn't. But where we are now is we need to find a solution. And it's not good. We have one of our colleagues throwing us all under the bus saying we're negatively targeting this gentleman when there are serious violations. A fire plan is a life safety violation, and that should not be taken lightly by anybody. I was disappointed in this email that you sent out, throwing your entire commission under the bus, saying we're targeting this gentleman, and I'll share it with everybody. But right now, here we are. Yeah, it is public record, and it's remarkably impolite. Where do we go from here? He's got his approval. Can that be taken back? If not, how do we work to make him a good neighbor and to make it so that we don't have to deal with this on a regular basis? Putting aside the code issues, which are a totally separate issue, and that is going to be addressed. What do we do about this application at this present moment? And what do we do going forward? Because we have spent way too much time as a commission on this issue.
There we agree. Can I make a brief just comment?
Finish.
I'd also like to move forward with this. I'd like for this to be a productive meeting where we give some direction to this business owner so we can be done with this issue. It's frankly insane that we're still doing this. So if they either remove the stage or amend their ZCU again and get a written parking agreement with Puttin' Around, which I understand that it was verbal because that property at Puttin' Around is currently for sale, so that's why they didn't get a formalized agreement. But assuming they can we be done with this issue? We shouldn't be talking about what we're going to do punitively. That's not our job. Per Florida statute, it's not our job to punish this applicant.
I wonder if you should really even be talking about this, and I said that to the city attorney under the
Well,
circumstances.
everyone can talk. Mr.
I'll talk
Mark?
about whatever I want up here. Thank you.
Oh, you?
But
Dial it back, people. I would like to make a comment if I could.
absolutely, Mr. Mark.
Jeff, I really wish this had come back to the commission. It didn't, and I wish it had, because I think we would have avoided some of this. But for me, the issue that we're facing here is Subculture is continuing to violate our rules. That's the bottom line. In my year and change up here on the dais, this is the first time I've had businesses coming back and coming back and coming back and complaining. And the Subculture company is not coming into compliance. That is our core problem. Clear breaches on the events policy, clear. The parking is a real life issue. I drive by there all the time because I happen to live over there. It's creating safety issues. Someone's going to get run down over there. And it's really, really, really unsafe, and the parking has got to come into compliance. Now, I wasn't on the dais when the in-lieu parking was granted. I will say that commission made a mistake based on the application that was put in. The Subculture's, I've been there many times myself. I love going there, but it's not the kind of place that you go in and you grab a coffee and you leave. You sit down. It's got a welcoming environment. The furniture's comfortable. People go in there for a long time. When I've been in there, people have got their computers just like they do at Starbucks. They're there for a long time. So having a handful of parking spaces isn't working anymore. It's just not. For me, it is creating safety issues that we have to address. And I'm just going to ask the Subculture management, can you please come into compliance on this stuff?
Can we please speak?
You cannot.
Why are you asking a question that we can't respond to?
It's a rhetorical question.
We don't do that.
Well, you should say it's a rhetorical question.
Okay,
State that.
it's a rhetorical question. It was kind of implied.
Wouldn't it be nice to hear from us?
No, I'll tell you what would be nice.
We do
if
offer
you would
public
follow the
comment,
rules
though.
of the chamber.
We do.
You do not, because you're talking and we're not addressing you. So please be quiet. I can have you removed, and I will.
You're talking to me one by one, and you are addressing me, sir.
Could we go back to the fundamental
Could we let the
question?
folks in the audience know that there will be an
There's
opportunity
a
for
period
public
of
comment?
comment. When you can speak when it's public
There
comment.
will be public comment. And hiring an attorney, but if Don't get yourself kicked out. Just wait till public comment. Nobody said there was public comments.
But
There is. There'll be your
But I'm
chance.
going to make another rhetorical comment. I would just love you to come into compliance. I want your business to be there forever. It's a good business. It's helping our community. It's good. We just need some help. We need cooperation. I don't know you, so we've not met. I sent you a letter. I'd like to meet you, but we just need some cooperation. We can make this work. I don't know what that is.
This is from the code department saying we are in full compliance. From the code department in full compliance in black and white. You guys this is a political thing.
Please.
It has nothing to do with us.
Don't get yourself kicked out. I don't want that. Put that down. I want you to be successful, and I want you to know that I'm coming at this argument from that standpoint. I want you to have a successful business in Delray. I love what you got, but we just have to find some ways that you can come into full compliance so that we're not bugging you and you're not bugging us, and you're doing great work for the community. So I'm coming at this from only a positive standpoint.
100% agree. Respectfully to my colleagues, is this productive right now that we're all talking about our opinions about this process?
I think it is, Rob.
Again, I think that the process was not, I think if it had come back, we could have had a very serious
That's
conversation about parking.
That point's
Which is
been
really-
made,
Because the issue for me in there isn't what the,
but we can't relitigate the in lieu parking
if you
agreement.
can't park it, well, that's a good question.
I agree.
Whether or not the second application would rose to the level of requiring a new analysis of the in lieu parking, I could find some very strong arguments that, yeah, it could have, because it was expanded activities, even though they said they didn't give them it all.
But they pulled that off their amended ZCU.
Well, I mean, even
So that's-
his own email says, we're only doing our odd comedy night. Well, that's people there for 15 minutes in comedy routines. Funny jokes, alternating mic cover, and they're still,
I have a question. I want to know from staff, do we have a path forward to fix this,
Thank
to
you.
remedy this?
I think we can find one. You've expressed that parking is of utmost concern to you.
it's a concern to the neighborhood.
Okay, it's a concern of everyone. If you have any other things that are of general concern to you with this property, let us know. I would propose give us 2 weeks for staff to meet with the ownership and to see if we can't hash out these issues and bring forward a plan to you of how to deal with this. I think that might minimize our conversation today and be productive.
Yes, I'm interested only in a resolution to this thing. I
Agreed.
heard the Anthea say that they were only approved only as a restaurant to serve food to customers. And then I heard, can we take that back? Is that what we want back?
No, I was asking
because that
if
was
that
that was the
zoning-
only thing that they were approved for. The requests that they made were not approved. They were only approved only as a restaurant to serve food. And I heard the attorney say that that what they requested is not being allowed. So it seems like there should be a path forward to resolve this so that we can end this, and that's what I'm interested in. Everything that's
As I
happened
said,
in the
it's
past,
only been about
it's
the
already
process.
happened and it's gone. We need to move forward with this.
as I said, it's only been about the process to me.
Absolutely.
And I believe if you
The
had to come back,
process
we
is
could have figured it
flawed.
out then, saying, okay, let's get an off-site parking agreement. That's fine. Let's get that in place first. Let's say that he says, oh, my employees are always going to park in the other spot. Okay, that's good. That frees up your spot. And you're going to maybe line the parking lot. That helps. And you know, make a few requirements, and then everybody goes home happy. But you go around, you know, us essentially, and did what you want, and that's what's the most troubling to me. I thought we were pretty clear in January we wanted it to come back, and I certainly think the city attorney was pretty clear in expressing that we wanted it to come back, and it didn't come back. So all of this trouble we're having here today is because it didn't come back,
Could I ask a question?
and that's not our fault up here. I hate to tell you, it's not our fault.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Sure.
Forgive me if I'm incorrect, but isn't with food service, it has to be certain percentage versus beverages? Wasn't that something when you're calling yourselves a restaurant? No, there doesn't have to
Versus
be a
bar,
percentage.
is that what you mean?
No, only if it's
Yeah.
alcoholic beverages.
It's
Oh, it's
only a
alcohol.
proportion of
only
sales for
plus alcohol.
alcohol.
Got
They
it.
do
So
have
the
a beer-
coffee,
they
the
do
tea.
have a
Coffee's
beer
considered
wine
a
license.
condiment,
So
beverage.
I wasn't. Thank you very much for clarifying. Thanks. So back to the question I asked originally. Can what you've approved thus far administratively on February 25th is not revocable? No, that's what I'm asking.
no, in our opinion, it restored it to the use that they were supposed to do, which was just sell
Okay.
coffee
So
and food.
that's where we are, and we have to figure out where to
So
move now.
whether it's revocable or not, I'll defer to the city attorney whether the parking is revocable
I
or
think
not
the city
based on
attorney's
what was
saying no.
presented
Well,
at the time
I
to make
think
the findings.
I think
don't-
what's confusing is that typically when some, and maybe we need to make a change to this certificate if somebody amends it, because there should be something that says like, your request is approved or your request is denied, so that it's very clear on its face. This is what you asked for, this is what you got, so it's denied in part, approved in part. So maybe that's something that we can take away from here today.
Right.
Because there's clear confusion, right? And just to be very clear, there was no change made to his use in this amended application.
Okay.
It essentially denied what he wanted.
Right.
And just clarified that if you want to do this outdoor use, pursuant to what was discussed at the city commission level, you're going to need a conditional use.
Right.
From the staff standpoint, and look, we have to we have to look at these applications and just trust what's being given to us, right? We don't have that ability to double check, and so a lot of this it's a learning experience. We had a
Right.
team meeting yesterday and discussed this, but when somebody gives you a life safety plan, we have to go from the standpoint that what they're handing over to us is consistent with what's there.
Right.
And we have to come from a place of trust.
Right.
And so when we learned that it was not consistent, that's when the conversations with Ms. Pryor, Ms. Giannotis, and myself occurred, and we said this is a violation of the life safety plan, and we learned that from that concert or whatever was there because you could clearly see a stage.
Right.
And so at that point, that's when it becomes incumbent upon us to take action, right, and to move forward to get the matter corrected. A lot of these violations are not, so excessive that, it's going to warrant excessive, like crazy,
That's not the
egregious
point.
action.
It's just
we
that
just
it-
need to have a complete record on file. That's
Right.
really what this boils down to, and we don't. So, I just want to be very clear. This zoning certificate of use that you have, this most recent one, it did not increase or expand any use. In fact, it essentially denied what he was seeking and just clarified, based on prior discussions, what he could and could not do. I'm just trying to, just put in a.
I just
small
want
box.
I just need to know where we can go to stop this.
The in lieu parking,
not-
I don't
it's
think
too-
there's anything you can do. I went back and I listened to the meeting. I understand what he proposed, and if it was, if the commission wants to move forward to try to revoke that based on essentially what would amount to potentially a misrepresentation of what the use was going to be, we couldn't look into that. But as I said at that meeting, because I think Mayor Petrolia asked me, if we approve this and there's problems, what is our recourse? And at that time, the recourse was not, you can take it away. Our new rules do allow for that, but the old ones didn't. And so at that point, I said, it becomes a parking issue. You know, it becomes an issue for PD to have to enforce. We don't enforce parking issues on private property. That's going to require no parking signs, you know, cornering things off, calling for a tow truck. And so, you know, Mayor Petroli at that time, you know, had some concerns because of the location and federal highway and all those other considerations. So I do think, you know, if it's a true misrepresentation, we can look into that. And, you know, but the way that in lieu parking was before, and Mayor, you know this, it was almost like a variance. It ran with the property. So, you know, the next use could potentially benefit from those in lieu spaces as well. And we've gone back and this commission changed that. So, you know, we recognized back at that time the issues with in lieu parking and made some changes in light of some of the applications that came before the commission.
I mean, I'm not interested in shutting anybody down. I'm interested in solving the problem. And they got a parking problem.
So
And let's figure out a way to solve the parking problem.
That's it. We need to-
And so maybe it's with some of the ideas we've thrown out. I mean, again, to me, it's just been, that's why I wanted to come back, because I had all these ideas on how we could, you know, we could collectively come up with ideas on how we could solve the problems he's having with his parking.
But if the parking problem is a result of a concert, that one's an easy one,
That's
right?
different.
That's an easy one, because you can't have concerts there.
Right.
Right.
If the parking problem is a result of his restaurant use, you know, he did mention at the when he received the in lieu parking that he would have either, you know, monthly. The issue was with the employees parking and using the spaces for the customers. So that was represented that's something that Mr. Mayo has done in the past. You know, I recognize the issues, but again, these are code issues that don't typically come before the commission. They go before the magistrate or the code board. And as the magistrate will tell you, if he can find somebody in violation, but his ability to issue conditions upon a finding of guilt are limited because he's not a court of law.
Right.
So, you know, the magistrate can't say, I'm going to fine you $2,500 and I'm going to add the special condition that you enter into an off-site parking agreement and you do X, Y, and Z, because that's actually outside of his purview. So, you know, I think today a lot of it would have to be voluntary, unless the commission wants to direct me to research, you know, the basis for receiving the in lieu in the first place.
Given that Mr. Mayo has stated that they do have an informal agreement with Putnam Around, perhaps we just work with him and see if he's willing to formalize that. Perhaps that's the path to least resistance in terms of quickly dealing with this parking issue.
Well, it's a two-way street. He's also got to deal, you know.
Obviously, staff's going to meet with him, and they're going to go through all the issues.
Not have what I saw on Saturday night. You know, I mean, the guy up there entertaining, I saw him on the stage. And, you know, I mean, that's not supposed to do that.
Okay.
So,
Again, that's a compliance issue that I feel like we can deal with
and you
on
either,
an administrative
you either want to play
level.
by the rules or you don't. And
Agreed.
And I respectfully, but you keep flouting the rules, and I'm supposed to bend over to accommodate. And I'm less likely to do that when you're not playing by the rules to begin with.
I'm not arguing in
I know
terms
that, I
of,
know that.
of the
And I'm not
violations.
talking about the-
I'm
that's what I'm saying.
merely
I'm not worried about
referencing
the
our role in the process.
I
which
think that
I think
I'm
we
amenable to
have
giving staff a
a
couple
lot
of
of other
weeks.
stuff to deal with up
Are we
here.
amenable to Commissioner
am.
Casal? Give consensus to give staff a couple of weeks?
So, Mr. Mayor, on that note, what I'd like to do is, given the consensus that's being expressed at this time and the commitments offered by various members of staff, all the members who are before you at the staff table, we will have an opportunity to bring forth a consideration during the May 20th City Commission meeting. That's 3 weeks from today, and that will be ample time for us to prepare accordingly, take the next couple of weeks, use that time wisely so that we can get to the absolute best place possible based on the feedback that's being provided at this time. It would be a May 20th regular City Commission meeting agenda item. So with the consensus, as I'm hearing, to move forward in that regard, we will see to it that that is the commitment.
Okay, so we're all in agreement? Now, there is public comment available on this item. I'm hoping that with our pushing this to May, you're going to decide not to come up here. Okay, but we'll each have 3 minutes. 3 minutes, that's the rule. Don't criticize me on Facebook by saying I kicked you off because some white guy kicked you off.
Okay,
Because
okay.
I was making you comply with the 3-minute rule.
I would like to not be interrupted. then.
3-minute rule.
Fair.
Thank you.
I actually think it's less than that.
Oh, the workshops are less than that. What is workshops?
it's 2 minutes.
Oh, excuse me, it is 2
Okay.
minutes.
I have such a clear statement as the events coordinator.
Name and address for the record.
Cheyenne Merch, 4695 Francis Drive. Our events, gatherings, poetry, open mic, chess club have nothing to do with our parking issue. I have our sales on my phone right now. We are so much busier on a random Tuesday with people coming in for coffee and laptops than people coming in to say 10 minutes of poetry on a Saturday night. That has nothing to do with it. Please take that into consideration. Yes, we can improve our parking. That can be between you and my boss, but as the events coordinator, the events have nothing to do with this, truly. And that's all I have to say.
Thank
And
you
I
very
have
much.
the sales proof.
We'll take it
that-
all and go, no, thank
Yeah.
you.
How you doing? Blakey and Goldsmith, 32 Southeast 2nd, middle-aged white guy. I want to be clear, first of all, I have no financial interest in Subculture. I am a customer. I have performed there. I have helped artists perform for the first time in their careers there. To be accurate, we're using the word concert. This is definitely not a concert. That comes from somebody who has worked professionally in the music industry for 30 years. Okay? I am a professional musician who has toured the entire country with 5 different Rock and Roll Hall of Famers. Just want to throw that out there because of my ego. But I have 20 studio releases over 28 years. None of this happens if I don't get my nerves up at 14 years old to go to the coffee house called The Cup in Huntington, New York, and shaking, playing my first song in a tiny corner on a coffee house. Okay? And if you watch the Bob Dylan movie, or if you know anything about him, who is a Nobel Prize winner, when he lands in New York from Duluth, Minnesota, he goes to a coffee house. Coffee houses are an absolute fundamental building block for musicians and for local artists. We are very proud to be a city that is like Coco Gauff learned tennis here. That's amazing. We support her. I don't think we want to be a city that hobbles our local artists. We want to support them. The one thing I agree with what I've heard from everybody here is that our main goal is to support this business, but just have it done in the right way. What Cheyenne just said is very, very important. These events are not causing the parking issues. They're never causing the parking issues. And I don't want to be contentious, but it's just a fact that most of the calls, I've been present for them, and I am friendly with the owners, even though I'm not financially invested. Most of the calls come from 1 to 2 specific people, one in particular, who incessantly calls in for emergency violations that are more likely just something that, as the proprietor of his own lot, can just get ticketed or towed. And Subculture does its job by announcing and putting signs, don't park there, because we don't want to be here. Not me, but them. Okay, so when that person calls for emergent issues and it becomes not an emergent issue, I think that's a waste of the taxpayers' time and money. And if somebody called fire 10 times and 7 houses weren't on fire, they'd be arrested.
Thank you very
right?
much.
We wouldn't tighten the grip on the 7 houses
Cutting off
that weren't
middle-aged
on
white
fire.
guy too. So so that I'm consistent. And by the way, no one's talking about. As I say, my wife goes there, loves it. You know. I mean, his restaurant, Howley's, makes the best chocolate milkshake. They always make me a great one, and I go all the time. So I mean, it's nothing against the business. It's just, as I said, to me, it's always been about the process. Always been about the process.
Let's find a process.
I should come here more often. I get more recommendations for our product at other locations. That doesn't count for my 2 minutes. Rodney Mayo, very depressed owner of one lonely coffee shop. You know what would solve all this? You guys go back and forth. How are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve this? Does anyone know? I do. Mayor, I emailed you consistently 4 months ago to meet with me, to have 15 minutes, to break bread and have coffee. You, in 4 months, consistent emails, did not respond to me once. Commissioner Market, I heard you just responded to me yesterday. I've been emailing you for 4 months to have a meeting, face-to-face, because I can't get all this paperwork to show you that you are inaccurate. Facts. I have facts. You have opinions. I have facts. Julie, Commissioner Julie, I very much appreciate you. We've scheduling conflicts, but I very much appreciate, and I think we're going to get together. And I am so confident if I met with the 3 of you that, and I showed you all the paperwork, you would not side with me, but we would have a solution to this. But if we're not communicating and you guys refuse to talk to me, I mean, how do you solve this? This issue definitely is, we are the scapegoats. This is a political issue going on. There's something going on between the city. But we have the paperwork. I met with code 3 times. I have an email. This is a text. Code enforcement does not have any active cases in the system at this time. What are you asking of a business owner? When I go to code, I go to zoning. Zoning gentleman came out so nice, shook my hand, apologized to me. I said, I'm sorry you're having to go through this. amazing gentleman, we got approved. And I beg to differ. When you're a restaurant, go look at any restaurant on Atlantic Avenue. First of all, does Atlantic Avenue have any parking issues? Blah. I just opened Kapow on Atlantic Avenue. Parking issues, double parking, ticketing. I have 5 tickets now that I paid in the last 6 weeks for the city. Yes, there's issues everywhere, but there's no commission meeting about those issues. Why? Subculture. Anyway, please just meet with me. We will solve this.
Thank you very much.
And
Have you
I'm
checked your,
100%.
I emailed you the other day.
Okay, but I know it's been 4 months. Sorry.
Well,
It takes me
you
a
may have
day.
sent one 4 months ago, but
I
it was a
apologize.
pretty
I'll look
busy
today.
time. But yeah, I mean, don't say I didn't respond to you because I did respond to you.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vincent Edward Polinar, Zephyr. I work at Subculture Coffee, and I've been a barista for over 10 years. And there's a reason that I've come back to Subculture, and I feel like we're all in agreement in that, is that it's a beautiful place. And I very much side with the fact that we need to protect these outlets of expression for each other in order to share. That's what humanity is about. Whether it's a special event, restaurant, like if we have a concert, what's the difference of me? Does that make me not allowed to play my guitar in the coffee shop? Or is it the fact that it's like the stage and the microphone?
Yeah, we don't answer questions from the data.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, regardless, I just was thinking about that. But I know for me, it's been a really powerful opportunity for me to connect musically, to connect artistically and creatively. And it's just very sad to see that we're getting so involved with the personal misgivings of it, and with all the political aspects of things. And I just pray and hope that we can find a solution. The parking can be a little crazy, but where else? It's Delray. It gets crazy anywhere we go. And I'd like to preserve the fact that it's a beautiful place for people to come. We have families that come in to express themselves and feel comfortable to do so. And that can change people's lives, especially when it comes to artistic creation and expression. And that's very dear to me, and I do not want to lose that. So
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Montre Bennett, 323 Northwest 2nd Avenue. I'm going to simply say it is a parking issue all throughout the area, first off. Second, for a business to survive, they have to come with other ways to bring in money. Because rent is expensive as is. And I know in lieu parking is some fees that they got to pay too. But they need to recover back the money that they're paying just on rent by itself. They must pay employees because of the high-end rent. And I'm going to just talk about this noise ordinance. Whatever you do downtown, east of Swinton, it needs to be beneficial for West Atlanta Avenue. Everything needs to be equal across the board so that everybody can benefit. I don't care where they're located, but East Atlanta Avenue and West Atlanta Avenue needs to be equal so everybody can afford the opportunity to pay their rent and get the money in their business so they can survive. And I'm complete.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment on this item? Is that someone getting up for public commenting, or? Please address the microphone.
265 Northeast 5th Avenue, Carter Van Voorst. I think everybody, where's the common sense in this? It's a 1,600 square foot facility. It's got 8 parking spaces. They bought 5 in lieu of spaces. They have 41 seat restaurant. Right. Okay? Our business is a half a block from there. On the weekends when they're having happenings and gatherings, our business parking lot is filled. So I'm just imploring everyone involved with this issue, please think about just the logistics of what you're asking. A 41-seat restaurant in 1,600 square feet with 8 parking spaces and 5 in lieu. Doesn't seem like it adds up to me.
Thank you very much. Good old Mr. Long.
George Long, 46 North Swinton Avenue. I have a restaurant that's next door to me. and they are a good neighbor. And they can be good neighbors. All you got to do, and I'm sure you're on your way, is to sort this out. It's not that hard, right? Thank you.
Well, I agree with you, Mr. Rowe. None of us up here have talked about everything except the process and the parking. That's kind of been our...
Regarding the parking, I think something that's been left out of the conversation, and this came up during the in lieu conversation, is just how many parallel parking spots there are along the street right in front of it. I don't remember how many there are, but like I always find parking along the street every time I go there, even if it's in the morning when everyone's in there. They still have parking issues because people refuse to go a few feet up. I see that all the time.
Not a lot, because then you have the McLaren spot, which is the private property. So there's really
I think
not
there's
a lot
at
of...
least 6 right nearby.
Well, that will be something staff is going to come back to us with and tell us, all their wonderful findings about where the parking is going to be available. Because, as I said, to me, it's always been about... This could have been addressed in January.
May 20th it is.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Oh, yes, one more.
Three. I was prepared for 3, but I have 2. My name's Daniel Rose, 323 Northeast 6th Avenue. I've been in business almost 25 years in this location. I run a charity in Delray called We Box for Life. I've served on the CRA. I've also been recognized for pro bono awards as a lawyer. April 2023, I sent an email to Mr. Mayo in regards to his coffee shop supporting him. I even said that we might have an issue with parking, but everything was a done deal. You're 80% built out before you even apply for in lieu parking. I don't think that's ever happened in Delray. I expressed concerns about customers parking everywhere. This whole thing was a Trojan horse. He goes to you guys, hey, I'm just a grab-and-go coffee shop. Here's your in lieu. Now I'm going to have concerts. He had concerts January 9th. They block my parking lot constantly. Every day. They block me in. I can't park. My clients have to park not in my property. I have 4 spaces. That's all I have. He takes them. His clients take them time and time again. And they don't care. I got audio from Sunday. I'm leaving my office. A guy's blocked me in. He's parked in no parking. He told me, quote, unquote, I have the video posted online, go fuck yourself was his response. I'm very polite to them.
We do have a...
I understand. The nuisance continues. There's no signage. It's just a parking lot. It's a free-for-all. They park everywhere they want. Sometimes they pack 10 parking spaces in there. Not even an ADA handicap parking space is there. So I'm just going through everything I have. It's a nuisance that'll continue. Now, he's been there for almost a year, so he has every opportunity prior to today to make it right, to change things, stripe his lot and do things. This off-flow parking situation doesn't work. He can have contracts with everyone in town. His customers park wherever they want, whenever they want, because their attitude is, hey, I'm just getting coffee for 10 minutes. I don't care where I'm at, and it's on video. It's everything else. I reviewed his business. He's got $1.1 million mortgage on there between property taxes, everything else. He's about $15,000 a month. So selling coffees and cakes for $5, you're not going to make it. You need those concerts like he had on January 10th. I'm sure Mr. Richwagon will testify to that. So after he had his January 10th concert, what does he do? He then tries to throw another one in April with 4 bands. This is what he does. He does what he wants. He has no care for the neighbors. They park everywhere they want. I don't need to be here today. I got better things to do, but I have no choice because my parking lot has been destroyed.
Thank you very much. Seeing no more public comment.
I just want to put on the record, he's still filming me.
Okay, all right.
This meeting's not recorded, so I'm recording it.
Hello, Albert Richwagon, 298 Northeast 6th Avenue. I've been there for 17 years, been in business in Delray for 65 years, former DDA board member. I was the parking liaison for the DDA. I'm currently on the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Transportation Planning Agency for West Palm. So my problem is not the coffee shop itself, it's the parking issues. His ZCU, his original application was for 20 seats. His liquor license says he has 30 seats, which has been expired for the last 30 days, by the way. The current restaurant zoning that she just spoke of said that he now has 47 seats. So I'm not sure, has it gone from 20 to 30 to 47 without any due process, without any commission approval? So I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. If you have 9, 7, 9, 8 parking spaces, there's no in and out into the parking. It's a single lane, some cars pulling off of Federal Highway, some cars pulling off of 3rd Street. My clients backing out of my vested approved parking spaces have backed into his illegally parked clients on numerous times, numerous accidents. So it's not the coffee shop and it's not even being a restaurant is the problem. It's that what's going on there parking wise is just not working for all of the surrounding neighbors. I own the property behind him as well. My tenant calls me up and says, hey, there's this guy sitting out on my gated in front porch, smoking a joint, drinking his coffee. I walk over and I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, oh, I'm just taking some calls, having my coffee. Go back to your bike store. I said, well, I own this property, and my tenant just called me and said that they don't want anybody out here, and that they asked you to leave and you didn't leave. He told me to go F myself and go back to my bike store where I belonged. I did have some communication with Mr. Mayo a few times. I ended up having to block him after disparaging comments. Basically, I'm worse than a 90-year-old angry grandpa screaming at the kids on my front lawn that I should just move away. Everyone would be much happier. So
Thank
if
you
this
very much.
continues, I'm going to move away.
Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Xavier Hawk. I am co-founder and managing partner of a $1 billion finance company in partnership with the royal families of Saudi Arabia, UAE. I live in Delray Beach. I've lived in Boca Del Rey for most of my life, all the way back to high school. My daughter is in one of the bands that has performed at Subculture, and the whole crew, they're all straight edge. I don't know anywhere for them to hang out that's safe and beautiful like Subculture, to create a scene, to create vitality. This is how Delray was built. It was built on music and arts, and that's what built the community. And now we're going, it seems like, into a direction where, you know, in the same sort of gentrification that has happened in all kinds of different areas. And having a place like this culturally is very important. It sounds like the only issues are, like this gentleman said, is parking, and that the majority of parking issues could be resolved with some good zoning and or with good relationships with the partners, Putt and whoever else might be able to provide temporary stuff. When I will say, when I was there was somebody outside providing guidance on where to park and where not to park, specifically across the street at some lawyer's office. I'm assuming that's you, sir. But there is an attempt on their part that I have witnessed to make sure that people are parking in the right spots. You need to have cultural events like these concerts. The kids need something to do that's exciting and fun, that will keep them out of trouble. Like I said, I have not seen any drug use there. I've not seen any untoward, dangerous behavior, and I think it's very important for the community. And I think that, you know, I heard some solutions being offered, refigure the parking and also the permitting, and I really hope that this gets resolved. It's not something that's looking good for the city, especially when there's a unique place that provides a safe place for the kids to be and do something spectacular.
Thank you very much. Any other public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Mr. Moore.
So, Mr. Mayor, as we've communicated, there will be a commitment for the May 20th regular City Commission meeting to proceed with the consensus and direction offered by City Commission today. Otherwise, the remaining item for this afternoon's engagement involves emergency preparedness for elected officials. The executive leadership team this past Thursday, April 24th, had our engagement to this effect, in which we were able to discuss particulars for the upcoming hurricane season. Working closely with Fire Rescue Chief Ronald Martin, we had an opportunity to discuss early on the importance of the elected body being aware of specific protocols and responsibilities that you all will likely experience in the event of an inclement weather event or any other disaster that may be impacting the city of Delray Beach, Florida. We therefore are at liberty to offer you all a fairly brief yet substantive presentation relative to expectations in that regard, so that we can get to the absolute best place possible in terms of productivity and proactive preparedness for hurricane season and or any other issue or challenge that might be experienced in this community. With that, I give you Fire Rescue Chief Ronald Martin, who is likewise in position to introduce members of his administrative team to assist us in this realm.
Excuse me, I'm going to have to be departing soon.
Yes, I'm sorry?
I said to Mr. Martin, unfortunately, I'm going to have to be departing soon from this. I have an appointment that is important. So I will slip out, but I want to say thank you. I read the booklet, and we've never seen that before, and I appreciate you.
Mr. Martin.
Good evening, Mr. City Manager, Mr. Mayor, Honorable Commissioners, Madam City Attorney. It's my pleasure today to present to you, well, actually, I'm not going to present to you. I'm going to offer some introductory remarks to you on your roles in emergency management and disaster preparedness. You all have very important roles in this process, in this system. Hopefully we never have it. It's something I have firsthand experience with tornadoes and a Category 5 direct impact storm hitting the community that I served. It's an extremely tedious time, And you all, we understand and we acknowledge the difficult roles that you have as elected officials. You get elected to office, you have an entire governmental structure, governmental reporting, fiscal, fiduciary responsibilities, and then a hurricane or a tornado happens. Or God forbid we have a man-made event happen. And you're all being looked to. You're being looked to from your constituents, you're being looked to by staff for guidance, for leadership. So you all have extremely important roles, and those roles are senior policy officials, senior administration, providing support to the city manager's office, providing collaboration, support in enhancing the morale of the teams and the boots on the grounds through your demonstration of unity and collaboration and support of the operations. If we do have an event, it's important to realize that it is our commitment to you from this team that you will have timely information on decisions that are being made. You will be briefed. You will have routine briefings on what our current sit rep is or situational conditions at the time, and we will keep you informed. What we will need as we mitigate these hazards, as we mitigate these events, is you to be prepared to support the city manager's office with high-level policy decisions, and that support and demonstration of Delray Beach unity. And what makes this community so great is our ability to come together and get through difficult times. One thing I will say before I turn it over to my team is, as a community that hasn't had a significant impact in many, many, many years, a significant direct impact of a major storm in many, many years, there's a lot of false beliefs, misnomers about it. The one thing I will say on that is, yes, we have some natural protective barriers here in Delray Beach, so we're not in a coastal tide surge inundation zone, okay? However, what I will tell you is these storms are getting bigger, they're getting more powerful, and every year in the United States we are seeing that 500-year storm that is resetting the records. I would also like to tell you that preparedness is the key. I encourage all of you to be prepared. I encourage the community, our small businesses in particular, to take this topic very, very serious as we go into the 2025 hurricane season. Now I'd like to introduce to you my team, your emergency management team. I can tell you I have had the honor of working with the best and the brightest in this country when it comes to emergency management, and I will tell you this team is new, but given them time and the proper support, they're going to be the best in the industry, and they're going to take care of our city and our residents. What you can expect for them is consistent communication, collaboration, efficiency, and training in support of your roles. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce the Assistant Fire Rescue Chief of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, Mr. David Garcia. Our Special Events and Planning individual with Emergency Management, Ms. Stephanie Craney, and our Deputy Emergency Manager, Chris Bell. With that, Chief Garcia.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be talking about the FEMA G402 overview this evening. We've condensed this down to a brief city-driven overview of this program. It's a FEMA course. So with that, we'll skip over to the agenda. Oh, I don't have the... sorry. Sorry about that. All right, so some of the topics we'll be talking about this evening will be the NIMS overview, the National Incident Management System, some of the preparedness responsibilities that we'll be overlooking, and elected officials' responsibilities that Chief Martin briefly spoke on. We're also going to be talking about the unified command approach that we're going to be utilizing within the city, and also we're going to do a quick 2025 weather outlook. So what is NIMS? The true definition of NIMS is the National Incident Management System provides a consistent nationwide approach to enable all levels of government, private sector, and NGOs to work together during incidents. This was actually created after 9/11. when they had multiple agencies come to one location. They had no forms of a structured communication and information dissemination. So this allowed them to have a unity in their efforts. They aligned multiple departments, multiple agencies under a common structure to coordinate decisions and coordinate the resources that were allocated to that emergency efficiently. It supports informed leadership. Like Chief Martin spoke on, this is going to provide the information and structure to that information to those individuals that need to make those timely decisions when time matters. It's going to protect some of the funding. NIMS protects fundings because actually FEMA requires NIMS compliance for some of our grant eligibility, but as well as it sets guidelines to receive that federal support. It's going to enhance the accountability and communication. So how that's going to work is it's going to provide structure to reduce any confusion during these crisis or high stress situations, and it's going to help keep the public informed. So at its core, NIMS is going to promote coordination, collaboration, and communication across multiple jurisdictions, but also most importantly across multiple departments within the city. So some of the components of NIMS is going to be the ICS structure, obviously the EOC, Emergency Operations Center, the MAC groups, multi-agency coordination groups, and the Joint Information System. So the ICS structure is a standardized system that is used a lot in our first responders, police, and fire. It provides clear responsibilities, clear roles, and communication among all responders. The EOC is going to be our centralized location where city leaders and department directors will be housed, and they will be able to watch an overall response and support field operations, those boots on the grounds, right? So our city EOC is going to be coordinating with the county EOC to make sure that we're getting the correct or the allocated resources needed to ensure an effective response to whatever that disaster may be. MAC groups are going to be supporting major incident coordinations across multiple jurisdictions. And our GIS, our Joint Information System, is going to coordinate a unified dissemination of information to all departments involved, but most importantly, the public. So what are we doing for our preparedness and responsibilities? Our emergency management team is going to review and align all of our emergency plans. So one of the goals is we want to make sure that we have a citywide emergency plan, and we're going to have each department make sure that their individual plans align in the event that we have to utilize that citywide emergency plan in a catastrophic event. We're conducting training and exercises. We're going to review mutual aid agreements with our surrounding municipalities. We're going to review city contracts and establish those city contracts to ensure our readiness so we're not delayed in getting those resources that need to be allocated for these responses. And we're going to maintain a resource inventory to know what we have available to us to make sure that we have those in a timely manner. So I know Chief Martin spoke briefly on some of the officials' responsibilities. Coordination with EOCs and senior officials. So we're going to need to make sure that we have direction on representation with our county EOC. The county EOC actually has 2 seats for each municipality. So direction to make sure that that coordination between the county and the city is there, because all of our resources get funneled from the state to the county level, and then from the county level to the city level. Yep, sure.
So commissioners, that's a very important concept that I know firsthand. Statutorily, once the declaration goes out, and it's reaching going from the county to the state to the federal levels, once those declarations by statute, the county becomes the authority having jurisdiction in which we function under their authority. So while resources are coming from the federal level to the state level to the local level to us, the funding works in reverse as well. So we need to be in line. We need to ensure that we are communicating and have good collaboration with our county emergency management partners and strengthen that relationship, because it not only impacts how quickly we can get to recovery. Now that's always the benchmark, that we stop the response phase to an emergency. We stabilize things quickly, life safety, incident stabilization, conserve property, and salvage what's been lost. and then get the community to recovery. The closer and more collaborative we can work with those county partners, the better our ability to take care of the community will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. So these are going to be your senior official responsibilities. The most important thing is all these need to occur in order to deliver a coordinated message to the community and assure them that we have the correct resources to respond to whatever that disaster may be, whether it's a hurricane or man-made. So delegation of authority, this is pretty much going to kind of tie in with our unified command that will Stephanie Craney will talk on this evening. But pretty much understanding that the delegation of authority, whenever there is a local emergency or state of emergency activated, the delegation of authority is going to come from the elected officials, and usually it will be provided to the city manager or the emergency manager, on whatever designee is selected, and that would allow to maintain the continuity of the government and clarifies leadership roles so the city can respond effectively to any emergencies while remaining compliant with legal and operational protocols. So just wanted to talk a little bit about the EOC functions to give you a little picture on what's happening in the EOC, some of the responsibilities. In the EOC, we're coordinating all of these. We're coordinating the emergency weather alerts, warnings, coordinating the location or pretty much disseminating information on evacuation routes, where those shelters are located, emergency transportation for those special needs, coordinating the location of special needs shelters. We're also ensuring public safety. So law enforcement is performing security in the event that we do have an impact to our city. We would want to ensure that we are tracking who's coming in and going out of our city, performing search and rescue efforts in the event those are needed, and we're coordinating those mission requests with the county to making sure they're allocating the appropriate resources to us. The EOC is also going to be coordinating with the county and state in regards to unmet needs, whether it may be fueling, points of distribution needs for the actual community, comfort stations for the actual community in case we have catastrophic damage to their properties, mass feeding, and of course any mass casualty incidents will be coordinated with the EOCs. The EOC will be coordinating those damage assessments, reporting preliminary damage assessments to the county level, and ensuring those are documented to ensure that FEMA is aware and that information gets followed up to the state and then eventually federal level. Most importantly, the EOC function is going to be resource management. So that's just not public safety. That's all from debris management, infrastructure protection, the utilities restoration, and most importantly, volunteers, donations. Usually in these events, you'll get a lot of volunteers that want to help, and you want to make sure those are actually managed and perfect. Okay. And now I'm going to have Stephanie Craney talk on Unified Command.
Good afternoon, Stephanie Craney, Delray Beach Fire Rescue. So in incident command, there's two approaches. There's a single command approach and there's a unified command approach. And in the fire service, we love scenarios, okay? So I'm gonna give you a scenario. I've seen all of you at the DDA's amazing Old School Square concerts, right? So imagine we're at an Old School Square concert and we're enjoying ourselves and a microburst storm comes through and there's a tornado and the garage is collapsed and the Crest Theater's on fire and a water main's exploded and now we have to establish a perimeter. What do? Well, in a single command approach, there's one incident commander. And that person is establishing what objectives we're going to hit and how to best mitigate and manage all of these things that are happening right now. In a unified command approach, you would have key representatives from each department. So for example, you'll have fire, you'll have police, public works, clean and safe, and everybody's coming together to best decide how do we handle all of these things, right? Fire's expertise is fire. So we're going to be able to give the best information on how to handle the Crest Theater that's on fire. PD does road closures and helps to secure the area. They're going to be able to weigh in on how best to do that. Public Works is going to weigh in on the water main break. So when you have a unified command, you've got everybody you need to be able to jointly decide how best do we mitigate and how best do we handle these situations. Some other benefits to Unified Command are ensures that no single department is acting in isolation during a complex emergency. It allows for joint coordination of incident objectives, clearer communication between departments, faster decision making with fewer conflicts, which we all love. Ensures timely updates and sharing of information, and it leads to more efficient use of resources, especially during large-scale incidents. So when would we activate a unified command is something like I just said. This tornado comes through, or there's a hurricane, or we're at a special event and there's some other type of large-scale incident. We would want to activate our EOC, get our unified command together, and start working collaboratively to make the best decisions to mitigate everything. So with that, I pass on to Chris Bell, who's going to give you some updates on our weather.
Thank you. This early, about a month before the beginning of the season and several months before our peak risk season here in South Florida, there are kind of global climactic things that we can say we are greater or lesser risk than any given average season. So right now on the screen you see the sea surface temperature is the first of those two items. Compared to last year, 2024, we are at less risk than last year. Overall, we are still above average for the last 30 or 50 years. So it's still a warm ocean out there, but it is lesser of a risk than last year. Slide, please. And the second is the status of whether we were in an El Nino, La Nina, or a neutral season. And last season we were in La Nina, which favors tropical development in the Atlantic Ocean. And so we are now most likely appearing to be in a neutral phase by the time we get to the peak season in South Florida. Next slide, please. And so, there will be a number of different predictions that come out over time. One of the earliest ones was Colorado State University, and they put out a prediction of 17 storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes. Again, less than we had last year, greater than the statistical average over the last 30 years. And I think that what we also said to the executive leadership team was really it comes down to either we have one or we don't here. So if we have one, it doesn't matter if there are 30 out there or 1 out there. If we have one, we have to be prepared for it. I think that's all I had.
Perfect. Thank you, Chris. And with that, let's conclude the presentation. With that, we'll conclude the presentation. We went gave you a quick overlook of the National Incident Management System, some of the preparedness responsibilities we're doing, and some of the responsibilities for the elected officials. A little brief overlook of the Unified Command and how that approach is going to look, and a brief look at the 2025 weather outlook. And with that, I'll turn it back over to the Fire Chief.
All right, thank you, team. Appreciate your dedication in putting this together. Short period of time, you guys have all been working together. They've done phenomenal work so far. So, Mr. Mayor, honorable commissioners, that concludes our brief educational overview of your roles in disaster management, disaster preparedness. I'd like to open it up for any questions you may have.
Commissioner Long?
I don't think I have any. I love the unified approach, and thank you guys for explaining this to us. I can't really think of anything more important than what you guys do and how we react to emergencies like this. So I feel very confident in the leadership of the folks in this room. So thank you again. Appreciate everything you guys do.
Commissioner Mark?
A couple questions. First one is, how do agencies like the Red Cross feather into this?
So agencies such as the Red Cross are considered non-governmental organizations
NGOs.
that fit within what's called a VOAD, a volunteer organization division within emergency management. One of the challenges, and I saw this firsthand with Hurricane Ian, is the coordination of volunteer resources. Once a community is impacted, you can be quickly inundated with resources, and we try to vet and identify those volunteer organizations like the Red Cross and give them very specified roles and try to get the outpouring of volunteerism coordinated, because, for example, we had one fire station that got completely inundated within 8 hours post-storm with cases of food, blankets. We couldn't even get apparatus in and out of our fire station once we had power restored. So coordination of those volunteer organizations, those non-governmental organizations, is very important, and that's typically done through guidance at the county level.
Okay. and just one, this is probably going to be a stupid question, but I'll ask you.
No
anyway.
such thing.
You'll laugh at me. So you talked about
He doesn't, we will.
Yeah, you always do. So thank you. But if there is a bona fide disaster and communications get knocked out, cell towers go down, how do we communicate with you, and how do you communicate with us? Are we trying to get to a central location, or some of us could still be stuck at home based on?
Well, that's not a silly question at all. So,
Wait a
as
minute,
far
did
as
you just say something nice to me?
that's an excellent question, and I can tell you that there's a variety of methods that we are working at enhancing. One, today you through the city manager's office, you've received an email from me about the Department of Homeland Security's GETS program. That's one of those programs that you'll get issued what looks like a credit card from the Department of Homeland Security through us. We will be the administrators of that program. That when the cellular networks become overwhelmed, you'll have priority access by using that card for your cell phone to conduct the business of the city. Okay? That's a free program through the Department of Homeland Security. So we're currently getting all our directors and our city leadership and all of you onto that program. Secondly, we have satellite phones that we maintain. We have the ability to use Morse code, telefax, telephones, emails, redundant backup systems for those types of things. So there is a variety of different means and ideas. The fire rescue department, and I'm assuming law enforcement as well, has transitioned to the new federally mandated FirstNet. Through AT&T was the selected federal provider that provides a higher level, a higher banding for our wireless network needs to help enhance and preserve those resiliencies, because a lot of things like after 9/11, all the communication systems were immediately overloaded. Yeah. So there's a lot of different communication systems. Communications in any type of large scale event is always the Achilles tendon. That's why we want to keep all of you informed so you can help keep your constituents in our community informed with timely and accurate information. So great question, sir.
I love that. That's terrific.
Commissioner Burns.
Yeah, I have no questions. I just always appreciate some specific identified set of procedures or policies, and thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Very good presentation. I mean, I always thought it was like the movies. We got whisked away in helicopters to some safe place in the mountains or something,
I could certainly make that
communications and all
I
that
could
stuff.
certainly make that budgetary request, but the city manager might have a problem.
That'd be a long shot, though, Chief. Thank you very much. Great presentation, and I'm glad we're on top of it. I really appreciate it. Thank you all very much. Are there any other comments from the commissioner? Anyone?
Not at this time. That concludes the workshop meeting agenda. So
Great.
thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
That was great.
Oh, public comment. I'm sorry. We do have public comment. I apologize.
I said the agenda was concluded.
I've got 2 minutes. Good evening, Paul Cannon, Police Advisory Board. I live at 1021 East Heritage Club. You all know my thoughts on public safety, and I've been advocating that for quite some time. And I don't want to overlook the opportunity to involve public in this process. I think as we go through the budgetary process, I can't emphasize the importance of budgeting for volunteers to be trained in emergency response. In the case of a major incident, excuse me, I seem to be fighting a bit of a cold here. The first responders are going to be overwhelmed very, very quickly. Goes without saying. So the first port of call is going to be amongst our communities. We need people trained in each community who can respond to an emergency. We've got plenty of able-bodied volunteers who are willing to do that. Some communities already have very well-organized groups. And to your point, Tom, they actually use ham radio to communicate. Good old-fashioned ham, it works. Yeah. Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. I just
very, very good point. Thank you, Mr. Cannon.
Thank you.
No other people? We are adjourned.